Today is a late night thoughts, and the topic is the XH2S Flagship enough? Now, I'm Richard, and welcome to ZP Productions. The late night thoughts is a series for me to share my opinions, and today's topic is the Fujifilm XH2S Flagship enough? Now, first, this is not a review. If you're looking for a review, click here. There's no images, there's no other videos. It's just me sharing my opinions for this session itself. So, if you're not looking for opinions, this is probably not the video for you. Now, on my table here, you can see the R3 and the A1. And both of these, you can say that they are the flagship of their systems. Well, the A1 is obvious. The R3, Canon still says that, it's not the flagship, but I'm sure the R3 spanks the 1D Mark III. It outperforms the R5 in everything but image quality. So I would say the R3 is the flagship, at least for this series itself. But what does it matter? Now, the XH2S, is it flagship enough? If you look at the Fujifilm system, the XH2S is the flagship camera. What is a flagship camera, right? A camera that excels in most parameters and is reliable, highly usable, and the best of its class. And on the Fujifilm line, this is the camera, the best of its class in Fujifilm itself, the X-mount series. Now, if you compare to other brands at its price point, maybe the OM1 is quite similar. But if you compare to other full frames or whatever cameras at its price point, I would say there are cameras that may excel in one parameter compared to the XH2S, but at its price point, as a whole camera itself, the XH2S is as flagship and as good as it gets as a whole package in its price point. We're looking at video, autofocus, burst, buffer, usability, functionality, image quality, everything. At its price point, is probably the best of its class. So, if you are looking at that point of view, the XH2S definitely is flagship enough. It deserves to be called the Fujifilm X-mount flagship, and it performs like one. And comparing to cameras of its price point, it is there. Now, however, if you are lucky enough like me, having the R3 and the A1, or you have recently touched any one of them, then you hold the XH2S and hope that the XH2S is like them. I'll say you may be slightly disappointed. Now, the XH2S has been with me since its launch, which means 1st July in Singapore. I use it for slightly more than 3 weeks, shooting it exclusively for more than 3 weeks. Then, I decided to ask myself, maybe I'm being biased. Maybe it's the hype. So I went to use the R3 a while, the A1 a while, and even used my GFX, took it out for a spin. Then I came back and asked myself, is the XH2S flagship enough? So, if you have used either of these cameras, what is so good about flagships? Highly responsive, very fast, gets the job done, very confident. You do not worry about missing your shots with flagship cameras. And I would say the XH2S embodies most of this quality at a much lower price point. But it is not the same. Now, if the XH2S was part of the Sony system or part of the Canon system, the XH2S is definitely not flagship. Because it is not flagship, that's about it. There is something that has to be given up. But in this case, I just feel where the XH2S is not flagship is really the confidence in using the system itself. When I use the R3 A1, I can literally say, close my eye to take a shot, and the cameras will do a pretty good job. The autofocus will hit the eye. It will be sharp. Everything will be in order. I just have to dial in the exposure. But when I use the XH2S, it's just not as confident. There is always that one shot that will miss for whatever reason. I do not know. It's random if you look at my previous review. Then there's always that one shot that will be soft for no good reasons, because every other shot was sharp. It's not often. It happens occasionally. But it's that confidence factor here. You just cannot trust every single shot that comes out the XH2S to be perfect. That's what I put it. So when you use it in a photo shoot, the XH2S requires a little bit more checking, a little bit more scrutiny, you know. And in certain conditions, you need to do them a little bit more. But the Sony and the Canons, I can trust most of the time. I don't really need to drill in every single shot, and they hardly miss, or hardly even be soft. That's what I would say. But the XH2S, at times, it's random. It happens. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ergonomics, because I think the XH2S ergonomics is fantastic. One hand usable. Most of the buttons are within range. The only thing I hate is the joystick. It's also part of this confidence factor again. The joystick is just hard to control. Look at my previous videos. It jumps. Eye detection wise, it's stuck. There's no white area. It's just the overall usability, the confidence, the flash smile of using the camera. And I'm not even doing a very demanding thing. It's portraiture. There are, of course, times where I do spinning shots. There are times where I do backlit shots. There are times where I do running shots. There are times I do action shots. There are times that I need to flip and capture the moment. But every time I do all these things, the XH2S just feels a little bit less confident than these two cameras here. These two cameras are just confident. And really, if I was to use this camera, then use this camera, and then use this camera, then use this camera again, you just can feel it. You just can feel it. But that said, is the XH2S flagship enough? Now, if you are hoping to get a R3 at half the price, stop. It's not the same. But if you're hoping to get an R3 at half the price with just a little bit of concession, yes, the XH2S is flagship enough. The price difference here doesn't equate to twice the quality. I will rate it maybe 5-10% difference. That's the feeling I get. That's the feeling I get. I don't know how to put an exact number, but 5-10%. Very huge diminishing return between both of them. Very huge. I think there's the biggest difference between the lenses, but when it comes to the camera body, very big difference with, I'll say it no wrong, very big difference in price, very small difference in performance. So, now, do I recommend the XH2S? This is not a review video, as I say again. But if you are looking for a flagship-like camera, the XH2S should perform to that quality. Now, there are certain things that the XH2S isn't great because of how Fujifilm make things, like the initial lock-on. The Fujifilm XH2S isn't as confident and fast compared to these guys. And also the in the middle interruption, when suddenly pops into frame, the XH2S just isn't as responsive for sudden pop-ins compared to these guys too. And when it comes to very fast moving objects, these guys do score better than the XH2S. But they are all very minor and specific use case. Everything else, as long as you look on the subject, and the subject is not like moving super quick towards you, I think the XH2S is very reliable and bursts really quick. So now, for this price point, it's definitely worth its price. So the XH2S is flagship enough, and if you are looking to buy a brand new system at its price point, or looking to upgrade your Fujifilm camera, this is definitely flagship. I don't think... I'll say as Fujifilm probably can improve the firmware and get it to this guy's level. Some tweakings need to be done, but I think it can. The hardware itself, I think, is great. So this is definitely as flagship as it gets for its price point. Once again, if you are hoping to get a mini A1 or a mini R3 at half the price, stop, try, and then ask yourself again. Because there is a difference, a small one. Is it worth twice the price? I'll leave it to you. And that's about it for today. I hope you enjoy my late night thoughts, because I'm lucky enough to own multiple flagship cameras, and there is no better comparison than to use them back to back. Many people, based on either charts or based on what they feel, but you know, unless you use them back to back over and over again, can you be more, I'll say, as assured that what you say is true? Not many people have the luxury, because a lot of them are just reviewers that rent the camera or are provided by the manufacturer, so they could not say everything they want to say. Sometimes, you know, really there is some boundaries to it. But I'm lucky enough to own them, so I can say whatever I want, and this is how I feel. If I swap left, right, the XH2S is just not the R3. The R3 is always slightly better. But is it $4,000 better? That's for you to convince yourself. Or if not, reject the idea and the XH2S is good enough. That's about it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.